An invasion is storming the shores of eastern Canada. European rabbits have annexed a coastal resort. Starlings now soar in military formation. These alien populations are staking their claim to a new world. On the jagged coast of Canada's eastern shore, a delicate and diverse ecosystem thrives on the fringes of the continent. Welcome to the Wild, Wild East. The story of European explorers arriving on these shores is well known. But what about the animals that came with them? European starlings have increased their population 1 million times over since their introduction to North America by lovers of Shakespeare. Today, they form massive murmurations that hang like clouds in the North American sky. Scientists call animals like starlings invasive species. Introduced wildlife whose success in new territories impacts native species and alters their new environment. These aren't just stories of conquest. How do invasive species like starlings adapt to life in their adopted habitat? It's the beginning of spring. The warm air fights back against the cold. But still, patches of snow remain. Bird feeders like this, intended for native chickadees and finches, also help European starlings survive the harsh winter of the Wild, Wild East. This one has already begun to adorn its breeding plumage. Its bright yellow bill and glossy green and purple feathers entice the opposite sex. This is a male. You can tell by the long, scraggly feathers on his breast. This is a female. She has shorter breast feathers and a sleeker appearance. Males attract mates with their song. And will shadow females as they go about their daily activities. This looks like an attack, but it's actually two starlings mating. Starlings breed in early spring, surrounded by the last signs of winter. Like most birds, the act happens on the ground. They rub together a combined urinary, digestive, and reproductive opening called a cloaca, which swells during the mating season to transfer sperm from male to female. Once starlings have mated, they stay together and spend the rest of their season caring for their young. When the spring air finally conquers winter's snow, huge numbers of European starlings swarm fields just like this one. The parents are looking for earthworms, centipedes, and other invertebrates to feed themselves and their newly hatched chicks. Starlings have an amazing technique for unearthing prey. Their jaw's musculature is wired in reverse. Its strength comes when opening their beak, not clenching it together. This allows them to easily excavate the ground. Confined to the nest, a clutch of 4 to 7 chicks eagerly awaits its next meal. Starlings are secondary cavity nesters. They make their home in pre-existing cracks and crevices, invading a woodpecker's hole or occupying a man-made nest box. One of the keys to starling success in the New World is that they're devoted parents. Both parents spend all their time and energy feeding the chicks until they're ready to fledge, 3 weeks after birth. On Nova Scotia's South Shore, White Point Beach Resort houses one of the world's most successful invaders. A creature that has conquered every continent except Antarctica. The European rabbit. Rabbits came to be known as bunnies because their tails look like a bun, the Gaelic word for a bread roll. Along with those tails, European rabbits share their large ears and strong hind legs with 60 other species of Leporidae. European rabbits, by far, are the most populous and widespread members of that mammalian family. That's because their broad diet and rapid reproductive rate makes them highly adaptable. But it's also because they've got a long history with humans. These fluffy conquistadors are native to Spain and Portugal, but have traveled across the world with people. First as a food source, but more recently as a pet. These rabbits are the same species many keep as furry companions. In parts of the world with fewer predators and tamer winters, invasive rabbit populations have exploded exponentially. These alien intruders' massive populations can devastate native flora and fauna, impacting the biodiversity of these areas. In Australia, 24 European rabbits released in 1859 grew to 600 million in less than a century. On Canada's more temperate west coast, an exploding population at the University of Victoria in British Columbia led to 900 rabbits being trapped, neutered, and taken to shelters as far away as Texas. The outbreak here at White Point Resort in Nova Scotia began as a bunny sitting experiment gone wrong. More than 2 decades ago, a staff member was taking care of 2 or 3 rabbits in the resort's boathouse. They escaped, and the population grew. The colony has been here for more than 20 years now, with the average population holding steady at 30 rabbits. That's because Mother Nature has a hand in population control. The surrounding woods are full of predators. And every year, the winter devastates the colony's numbers. In order to survive, the White Point Beach rabbits need to rely on their wild instincts. A 100 miles up the Nova Scotia coast in the city of Halifax, a stretch of boardwalk traces the waterfront. Here, you'll find locals, tourists, and European starlings. Like humans, starlings are omnivores with an expansive diet, so they're commonly found around people and cities. The hatchlings born last spring are beginning to resemble their parents, except for their dull brown heads and petite appearance. At the end of the breeding season, all starlings adopt a drab plumage and a matching black beak. Starlings are incredibly intelligent birds with exceptional skills as mimics. Their mimicry even caught the attention of Mozart, who taught one to sing his piano concerto in G major. It also inspired William Shakespeare to write them into one of his plays, Henry IV, Part 1. It was a pen stroke that changed the bird's fate forever. In 1890, a group called the American Acclamation Society wanted to introduce all the birds in the Bard's play to the New World. At the time, the concept of a potentially harmful invasive species was unknown, and the group thought the introductions would add a European flair to North America. 100 European starlings were shipped from England and set free in Central Park. Since then, the population has exploded. There are 200 million European starlings in North America today, and they've colonized the sky from Tijuana to Alaska. The American Acclimation Society initiated this starling invasion, but it was widespread changes to the landscape of North America at the turn of the 20th century that paved the way for the starling's expansion. Clear-cutting opened up new territories for these lowland birds. The growth of the agricultural industry resulted in more cultivated fields of grain and other plants that attract the insects starlings like to eat. Now, starlings have become a major pest on farmlands. Modern cities provided new nesting locations and food sources. Starlings have also moved into other birds' nests. Few North American immigrants benefited more from the industrial age than the European starling. Back along Nova Scotia's South Shore at White Point Resort, it's summertime, the peak of tourist season. But while the visitors enjoy the cabins above, the rabbits annex the territory below. European rabbits are herbivores and will eat almost any vegetation they can reach. They're mixed feeders, browsing shrubs for leaves, fruits, or buds, and also grazing on grass. European rabbits are a gregarious bunch, living in tight social units called warrens that consist of up to 10 individuals. The warren is also the name of the elaborate network of tunnels that connect the burrows rabbits dig. A trip down the rabbit hole reveals the hidden world of rabbits. This maze of tunnels reaches 3 meters underground and spreads across 200 square meters. The warren is the center of their colony at the resort. It's also where females give birth in the burrows underground, competing with other does for the best nesting sites, then marking them with their powerful urine. Throughout the warren, there are separate areas for urinating or defecating, sleeping, and rearing babies. Each warren can house a colony of up to 10 rabbits. Burrows offer a refuge from danger, so rabbits don't venture far from their warren. Like most prey animals, rabbits are extremely vigilant. Their eyes are positioned high on their head, so they can see avian predators, like eagles flying above. If a rabbit is stressed, its nose twitches frantically, sensing the air for any nearby predators, like foxes. The twitch increases the olfactory receptor's exposure to airborne particles, so the rabbit knows when the fox has moved on. Their iconic ears are like 2 giant antennae on the top of their heads, intercepting sound waves from every direction. With danger lurking around each corner, this rabbit knows if it senses an American mink watching from the woods, it'd better run. Rabbits' best defenses are quickness and agility. Rabbits can reach an impressive 36 miles per hour and can rapidly pivot in new directions to escape predators. When there are no nearby threats, rabbits practice their evasion skills by chasing each other. They have specially padded feet to absorb the shock of running and jumping. Prey animals sustain great losses. Only 10% of bunnies make it through their first year. But rabbits have another adaptation that ensures their success. And it's earned them quite the reputation. Rabbits can mate 4 times in 1 year. After giving birth, does immediately enter estrus. Mating actually induces ovulation in females. So a doe can be pregnant for up to 8 straight months, a continuous cycle of pregnancy, birth, and then pregnancy again. Each doe can birth between 30 and 40 kits annually. Up to 12 kits are born at a time in fur-lined nests inside the warren. They're altricial, deaf, blind, hairless, and 100% dependent on their mother. Their mother only nurses her kits for a few minutes each day. The nutrient-rich milk can sustain the young for 24 hours, so the mother visits her kits infrequently, which reduces a predator's attention to the warren. In a month's time, the babies will leave the warren. They will fend for themselves, evading predators and fighting to survive against the devilish winter ahead. By the time the fall leaves begin to show, the starlings born this past spring will have reached breeding age themselves. The population reaches its peak just before the onslaught of winter. This time of year, the already gregarious group grows even larger. For this nearby peregrine falcon, an individual starling could make a satisfying supper. But a mob of starlings has many eyes and many lookouts. The defense begins with just one individual. Then it grows and grows. The falcon's overwhelmed by the numbers and can't pinpoint an individual. In some places, these murmurations can consist of over 1,000 birds, all moving in concert with each other. When one shifts directions, they all follow. An aerial ballet. Each bird is watching 7 others. The movement of one spreads across a flock the length of a football field in a fraction of a second. The individual shifts are too quick for the human eye. A flock appears to move with one mind. Theoretical physicists recorded murmurations with high-speed cameras, then used computers to model the starlings' movements. Amazingly, the results show these undulating clouds closely resemble the movement of avalanches and waves, patterns in movement that scientists associate with state-of-the-art physics. Still, no one knows exactly how information whizzes through the flock like lightning. It's truly an awesome natural phenomenon. Winter on the North Atlantic coast is brutal for wildlife. Plummeting temperatures, unpredictable weather, and very little food to go around. It's enough to stop most invaders before they can even gain a foothold in new territories. The cold season ravages the rabbits at White Point Resort by imposing a natural cull. At this time of year, rabbits use most of their energy to stay warm. By January, their population at the resort typically falls from 80, the summertime peak, to just 30. In Nova Scotia, the winters do the job of population control, with a little help from a native predator in the nearby woods. The American mink hunts all year. And the winter's hard on this carnivorous member of the weasel family, too. Snatching one of the young rabbits would help it survive until spring. Rabbits hide from minks in the warren most of the day. but must come out to find food. Normally, their winter diet consists heavily of tree bark. It's tough to digest, so to extract every last nutrient, they actually eat their poop after defecating and send it through their gut several times over. Luckily for these rabbits, the resort is open year-round. Inside, the workers are busy preparing a meal for the rabbits. A little extra food sprinkled along the pathways helps some of the bunnies survive until next spring. It's a win-win situation. The bunnies get a leg up they wouldn't otherwise have. And come spring, the rabbits will help draw in flocks of tourists. Meanwhile, the starlings also take advantage of people's generosity in the winter by dominating bird feeders. Many people leave out grain and seeds thinking they're helping shepherd blue jays and chickadees through the long winter months. Unaware, they're actually bolstering the starling population. Starlings' aggressive feeding and nesting patterns make them frequent scapegoats for the decline of avian populations across North America. It's widely believed that starlings displace their New World cousins by outcompeting them for food and nesting locations. But the jury's still out on this. Most evidence is more anecdotal than scientific. Starlings aren't as much of a problem for other birds as they are for people, who accuse them of being messy, noisy, and greedy. It may have been human intervention that brought European starlings to North America. But their success here is the consequence of their resourcefulness and intelligence. Invasive species may have already changed the North American wild. But ecologists claim that the idea of an unchanging, balanced ecosystem is an illusion. Nature is always in flux. And the new order of things will change again tomorrow. European starlings have made an indelible mark on the North American sky. But the most recent data suggests their numbers have begun to level off. And while European rabbit outbreaks may run rampant elsewhere, at least Mother Nature controls the population along Nova Scotia's coast. The invaders have been granted citizenship in the wild, wild east.